Welcome back guys to another action-packed video of indices, and in this video we are going to be looking at simplifying indices that involve brackets. Now I would recommend that you go back and you have a look at the first video about simplifying indices, because we will touch a little bit on the first law of indices, but in this video we are mainly going to be focusing on the brackets. So that's the third law of indices. Now that's out of the way, let's dig in. Now before we begin, I am going to make a note of the third law of indices that we'll be using, and it's the one that has a bracket around the term. So when we have brackets, we multiply the powers. So that makes a to the power of 6. Now, if you are unsure about it, I have made a more in-depth video explaining the rule and where it comes from and why we have to multiply. Now, let's just refresh our minds with a simple example here on the left-hand side. So we're going to look at 3 cubed to the power of 4. Multiply the indices, so 3 times 4, and that makes to the power of 12. Now let's look at the algebra side of things. So let's see what happens when we have two terms involved. So say we had a squared, b cubed, and all of that is squared. Again, we multiply the powers, so we're going to have a squared times 2 and b cubed times 2. So that will be a to the power of 4 and b to the power of 6. Now I want to take you just a bit more in depth here so you can fully understand why we multiply both powers, because it will get a little bit complicated later on. So I just want to go a bit in depth here so you get the whole picture first. So what this bracket is telling us is that we have a squared b cubed times itself again, okay? So a squared b cubed. And using the addition rule, which is adding the indices when we multiply, because we are multiplying, so we can use that rule. So we can go, oh, so we have an a to the power of 2, I've got an a to the power of 2, I can add up the 2's. So this will be a to the power of 4, and we can look at the b's here and go, okay, well 3 add 3 is 6. So as you can see, it's the same answer. Now, if you can understand the reasoning behind it, then you shouldn't really forget the brackets rule and why we multiply. So let's have a look at something a bit more complicated. Let's say we had 2, and we're going to have c for cats, c squared, all raised to the power of 4. Now, we can straight away do the c squared because we know we can multiply, so we know that this will be c to the power of 8. However, this 2 has no power next to it, so as we discussed in the previous videos, when there isn't a power, we know that it has a power of 1, simply because anything to the power of 1 is that thing itself. So if we had 9 to the power of 1, then that would be 9. Okay, it's just the rules of indices. I have made a video, one of the first videos on indices, so if you want to have a look, go back to that video and have a look at why this is the case. So back to here, 1 times 4 is 4, so this will be 2 to the power of 4. Okay, now whenever we have a number that we know, which is raised to a power, and that we can figure out what the answer is, then we should figure out the answer. So this is 2 to the power of 4, so it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and that'll be 4, that'll be 8, 16. Okay, so this is 16c to the power of 8. Now moving on to the final example we will be looking at, and this time we'll have
2 squared, and we'll have a j to the power of -3, and we'll have a k power of 7, and all of that is squared.
Again, multiply the powers, so this would be 2 times 2 is 4, and then we have our j, and -3 times 2 is a -6, and then we're going to have our k, and this will be 7 times 2, which is 14. Now remember, whenever we have a number in front of the term, then we should really work out what the answer to that is. And I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. So this would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. So this would be 16j -6 k 14. And what this means is we have 16 lots of these j's and k's. We've got 16 lots of them. Now going back to where I said we should work out the answer to the number at the start. Now I know you're going to tell me, well, we are simplifying, and why should we work out the answer to it? Well, if the question explicitly tells you that, say you were given 2 cubed times 2 squared, and you're asked to work out what the answer is and leave it in index form, dot should be here, index form, then you would leave it in this format where you have something to the power of something. So in this case 2 to the power of 5. So this is only if you're asked to leave your answer in index form. In case if I ask you to simplify, then you would simplify and usually leave it in index form, and the question will tell you to anyways. So back to here, this is in index form. Now I know you're saying, well, it was in index form, but then we've changed it, we've converted it into 16. Well, it just makes more sense now, because now we can say it's 16 lots of these j's and k's. Okay, we have 16 lots of them, whereas at the top it just doesn't make it makes less sense. Okay, it makes less sense, but the bottom makes more sense and it's a bit more neater. Okay, now in the next video we will be doing a hardcore lesson on all the laws that we've learned, and we're going to be number crunching, algebra crunching, indices crunching. We're going to be looking at some past paper questions, and we're going to go in hardcore with indices. So if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments section, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next video.